When we speak of change, many of us treat it like an intruder. We lock our doors, we guard our routines, we cling to the familiar, yet no matter how strong the locks, no matter how tightly we hold on, change always finds its way in. It does not ask permission. It does not wait until you are ready. Change arrives like the seasons. It comes, whether you welcome it or not. The question then is not will change come. The question is, who will you become when it does? You see, resistance to change creates suffering. It is like standing in a river, fighting against the current. The water is stronger than you. The flow of life cannot be stopped. But when you learn to move with the current, when you learn to adapt, you discover that change is not your enemy. Change is the very force that allows you to grow, to evolve, to become more than you were yesterday. Understand this: change strips away illusions. It exposes where you have been asleep, where you have been clinging to comfort instead of pursuing truth. Change humbles the ego, because it reminds us that we are not in control of the external world, but it also empowers the spirit, because it reveals that we are always in control of how we respond. To deny change is to deny life itself. To embrace it is to step into alignment with reality, and in that alignment you will find not fear but freedom. So ask yourself, when the next wave of change arrives, will you fight it, or will you flow with it? Because make no mistake, change is coming, with or without your consent. When you look at the world around you, you will notice that nothing remains the same for long. The sun rises, and it sets. The seasons shift from warmth to cold, from growth to stillness, and back again. A child is born, grows into youth, ages into wisdom, and finally returns to the earth. Even the tallest mountains, which appear so unshakable, are slowly worn down by the wind and rain. If nature itself is in a constant state of transformation, why do we believe that our lives should be any different? To imagine a life where nothing changes is to imagine a river frozen in time, a tree refusing to grow new branches, a flame that never flickers. Change is the heartbeat of existence. It is not optional. It is the law that governs all of life, whether we acknowledge it or not. And yet many of us cling to the illusion of permanence. We build routines, careers, and relationships as though they will last forever. We cling to identities, telling ourselves, this is who I am, this is who I will always be. But if we look deeply, we realize that this clinging is rooted in fear. The fear of the unknown, the fear of losing control, the fear of being unprepared for what tomorrow may bring. But fear does not stop change. It only blinds us to the opportunities hidden within it. Think of the caterpillar. It does not resist the cocoon, though it must let go of everything familiar. If it were to resist, it would never transform into the butterfly. In the same way, when you cling too tightly to what you know, you suffocate your own potential for growth. Life, in its wisdom, will not allow us to remain still. It will shake us awake when we grow too comfortable. It will remove from us the things we thought we could not live without, not as punishment, but as a reminder that we were never meant to live in stagnation. A storm that breaks a tree may also scatter its seeds across the field, giving birth to an entire forest. Likewise, the moments of loss, endings, or transitions in your life are not merely endings. They are beginnings disguised in unfamiliar clothing. To resist this is like shouting at the clouds to stop the rain. You may raise your voice, but the rain will still fall. What matters is not whether the storm comes, but whether you have learned to see the nourishment it carries with it. So the wise person does not ask, will change come? For the answer is already written. It will. The wise person instead asks, when change comes, who will I be? How will I meet it? If you recognize that change is not your enemy, but your greatest teacher, you begin to approach life with a softer heart, with more courage, and with deeper trust. This trust does not mean you will always feel comfortable. It does not mean you will always understand the timing of events. but it means you will no longer waste energy fighting against what is natural. Just as the seed trusts the soil to push it into darkness before it can rise to the sun, you too must trust the seasons of your life. Change will not ask for your permission. It will not wait for your approval. It will come with or without your consent. And when it does, the question is whether you will see it as destruction or as transformation. When change arrives, the natural impulse of the human mind is to resist. We cling to the familiar like a child clutching a toy, unwilling to let go, even when it no longer serves us. But resistance does not stop the unfolding of life. It only intensifies our pain. Imagine standing in the middle of a river, trying to push the water back upstream. No matter how much force you exert, the current will not listen to your will. The river flows in its own direction. Your resistance does not change its course. It only exhausts you, leaving you drained and frustrated. In the same way, when we resist the inevitable transformations of life, we add unnecessary weight to our journey. The suffering is not born from the change itself, but from our unwillingness to let it be. This resistance often shows itself in subtle ways. It may appear as denial, pretending nothing is shifting, even when the signs are clear. It may take the form of anger, as we lash out at circumstances or people, hoping to regain a sense of control. Or it may appear as attachment, holding tightly to what is fading, even when our grasp only causes us more pain. But none of these strategies alter reality. The relationship that is ending will still end. The body that is aging will still grow older. The opportunity that has passed will not return. Resistance is like trying to trap the wind in a closed fist. The harder you hold on, the more quickly it slips away. What remains is only the ache of struggle, not the peace of acceptance. The paradox is this: the more you resist change, the more power it seems to have over you. Life becomes a series of battles you cannot win, and each battle leaves scars upon your spirit. But the moment you release resistance, the suffering begins to dissolve. Acceptance is not the same as surrendering to defeat. It is the recognition that life has its own rhythm, its own wisdom, its own flow. By softening your grip, you allow yourself to float with the river instead of against it. The current that once felt like an enemy begins to carry you forward with less effort. You realize that what you feared losing was never truly yours to keep, and what seemed like an ending is simply another step in the unfolding of your journey. In this shift, suffering is replaced by a strange, quiet strength, a strength born not of control, but of trust. Resistance blinds us to the gifts hidden inside of change. When we fight what is happening, our energy is consumed by fear, by anxiety, by longing for a past that cannot return. We become trapped in the narrow tunnel of what was instead of opening ourselves to what can be. But when resistance falls away, the mind clears, the heart opens, and we are able to see the deeper purpose behind the transformations. What once felt like a loss begins to reveal itself as an invitation to grow, to learn, to rise. In this way, suffering transforms into wisdom, and struggle becomes the path to resilience. The river was never meant to be your adversary. It was always meant to carry you forward, if only you stopped resisting and allowed yourself to be moved. Change has a way of stripping away the layers we use to hide from ourselves. It removes the masks we wear, the illusions we cling to, and the false securities we build around our lives. When all is stable, when life flows according to our plans, we can convince ourselves that we are in control, that we have mastered certainty. But when change comes, when something shifts, when a foundation cracks, it exposes what lies beneath. It reveals whether our strength was genuine or borrowed, whether our peace was rooted in truth or in comfort. In this way, change acts as a mirror, showing us not what we pretend to be, but what we truly are. And while this revelation may feel harsh, it is also deeply necessary, for it forces us to confront reality instead of hiding behind illusions. Consider the attachments you hold in your life, relationships, possessions, achievements, even identities. When these remain untouched, you may believe they define you. You may think, this job is who I am, this relationship is my anchor, this title, this recognition is my worth. Yet the moment change sweeps them away, the truth is revealed, you are none of these things. They are temporary forms, not permanent foundations. Change exposes the fragility of the structures we build around our sense of self. It reminds us that clinging to what is impermanent is the cause of deep suffering, and though this realization can feel like a wound, it also opens the door to a deeper understanding that your essence, your true self, does not depend on the things that can be taken away. In this way, change does not come to punish but to awaken. It is the great revealer, cutting through the fog of comfort and complacency. A life without change may feel safe, but in truth, it is a life lived half asleep, where illusions are left unchallenged. Change disrupts this slumber. It shakes us, pulls away the veils, and demands that we see clearly. When a familiar chapter closes, it forces us to question what remains when everything else is gone. Who am I without these external forms? These are not easy questions to face, but they are the questions that lead us to authenticity. The truth is often uncomfortable, but it is also liberating, and it is change that brings this truth to light. Seen from this perspective, the discomfort of change is not something to fear, but something to respect, because when illusions fall, what remains is real. You begin to see the difference between surface desires and deeper needs, between ego-driven pursuits and soul-driven growth. You discover which relationships are built on genuine connection and which were sustained by convenience. You learn whether your peace depends on external stability or arises from inner stillness. Change does not create these truths, it simply unmasks them. And though the process may feel like loss, it is in reality an invitation to live with greater clarity, honesty, and alignment. For it is only when the false has been exposed that the true can emerge. Life often reminds us that the world outside is beyond our command. The weather shifts without asking for our permission, economies rise and collapse without consulting our plans, and people enter and leave our lives on timelines we cannot dictate. This outer world is a realm of unpredictability, constantly in motion, constantly reshaping itself. Yet many of us exhaust ourselves trying to control this shifting landscape. We try to bend circumstances to our will. We try to freeze moments in time, and we try to demand certainty from a universe that has never promised it. Inevitably, this attempt leads to frustration, because chaos is not an intruder, it is part of the natural order of existence. To live believing you can tame it is to live in constant disappointment. And yet within this sea of uncertainty, there exists a space of unshakable calm, the space within yourself. The outer world may be filled with storms, but the inner world can remain still, like a mountain unmoved by the passing clouds. This inner space is where your true power resides, not in dictating the external flow of life, but in mastering your response to it. When you recognize that your thoughts, your choices, and your actions are within your control, you reclaim a kind of freedom that no outer chaos can disturb. It is not about building walls to keep life out, but about cultivating strength so that no matter what enters, you are able to meet it with clarity and balance. This shift in perspective transforms you from a victim of circumstance into a participant in life's unfolding. The wisdom of the ancients often speaks of this contrast. The winds will blow, the seas will rage, but the skilled sailor does not curse the storm, he adjusts his sails. The outer chaos does not define the outcome, it is the sailor's inner composure, his ability to adapt, that determines whether he survives or thrives. In the same way, when you meet the unexpected with a centered mind, the chaos loses its power to control you. Events may be uncontrollable, but suffering is optional, because suffering arises when you hand over your inner state to external forces. By withdrawing this power from the outside and returning it to the inside, you discover a form of mastery that no upheaval can take away. This is the essence of inner control. It is not about creating a perfect world, but about creating a balanced self within an imperfect one. When you anchor yourself in this truth, the noise of the outer world begins to lose its grip on your emotions. You no longer live in reaction to every storm, every criticism, every shift in circumstance. Instead, you live from a grounded place of intention, choosing how to respond rather than being pushed and pulled by the chaos around you. And in this way, you realize that the greatest victory is not in conquering the outer world but in mastering the inner one. Because when the world outside feels unstable, the strength you carry within becomes your only true sanctuary, and from that sanctuary, you are able to face whatever unfolds. To embrace change is to embrace life itself, for the two cannot be separated. The moment you stop fighting against the movement of time and allow yourself to flow with it, something remarkable happens. You begin to experience freedom. This freedom is not the absence of difficulty, nor the guarantee of certainty, but the release of unnecessary suffering. When you embrace change, you stop demanding that life remain frozen in forms that comfort you. Instead, you open yourself to the infinite possibilities that lie beyond what you can currently see. Every ending becomes a doorway, every shift becomes an invitation, and every unknown becomes a landscape of discovery. This willingness to flow liberates you from the prison of fear and places you in harmony with the natural rhythm of existence. Freedom is often misunderstood. Many people believe it means having control over everything, securing life in such a way that nothing unexpected can touch them. But this is not freedom, it is attachment disguised as safety. True freedom is not found in control but in flexibility. It is the ability to remain unshaken when life rearranges itself, to stay rooted in your inner stability even when the outer forms collapse. Embracing change teaches you that you do not need to cling, because what truly belongs to you will not be lost, and what leaves was never meant to stay. This realization loosens the chains of anxiety, for you no longer measure your peace by how much remains the same, but by how willing you are to grow through transformation. When you open yourself to change, you also unlock the deepest potential within you. A life of rigidity, where everything is preserved exactly as it has been, may feel comfortable, but it denies you growth. Just as a seed cannot fulfill its purpose without breaking open, you cannot step into your higher self without passing through change. It is often in the moments of transition, when one chapter ends and another begins, that you discover strengths you did not know you had, wisdom you did not know you carried, and courage you did not believe was yours. Embracing change reveals that life is not about clinging to what you already are, but about continuously becoming. And this becoming is the essence of freedom, for it liberates you from the small confines of yesterday and draws you into the vast possibilities of tomorrow. The freedom that arises from embracing change also transforms how you relate to fear. Fear thrives in uncertainty, in the space between what you know and what you cannot yet see. But when you welcome change instead of resisting it, the unknown no longer appears as a threat, it becomes a teacher. Fear loses its grip because you no longer require certainty to feel safe. You understand that you are capable of walking through uncertainty with strength, that each step will reveal the ground beneath it, and that nothing in life is meant to trap you unless you choose to cling. This shift in perception is the ultimate liberation, to no longer live as a prisoner of fear, but as a traveler who embraces the journey, knowing that every bend in the path is not the end, but simply another beginning. So we return to where we began, change. It does not knock politely at your door. It does not pause to ask whether you are prepared. It comes like the sunrise, like the passing of seasons, like the river that never stops moving. You cannot prevent it, and you cannot delay it, but you can choose how to meet it. If you resist, you will suffer. If you cling to illusions, you will be shaken. If you try to control the chaos of the outer world, you will exhaust yourself. But if you turn inward, if you let go, if you allow change to teach you, then freedom becomes possible, because every change that life delivers is not here to break you, it is here to awaken you. Ask yourself then, will you live chained to fear, resisting what must come, or will you live with courage, embracing transformation as the very essence of life? The choice is always yours, even when change is not. Remember this truth: change is not the enemy, change is the path, and it is leading you to the person you were always meant to become.